Hey guys, welcome into this Y'all Politics broadcast. I'm Frank Corder with Y'all Politics, and joining me today is a new group called Into America. I'm going to welcome in Miss Marie Thomas Sanderson, an old friend, and also a new friend, Generra Peck. Welcome to the conversation today, ladies.
Thanks for having us, Frank.
Thanks for having us.
So, Marie, I'm going to start with you. As a co-founder of this new group, Into America, tell us what this group does, why it was formed, and what you're hoping to achieve.
Sure. Well, over a year ago, we've been at this for a really long time. Generra and our other co-founder, Liesl Hickey, and I spent a lot of time focused on the suburbs across the country. We have suburbs in Mississippi too, obviously, but we were very focused on policies that matter to them and how to figure that out in a meaningful way. So we launched Into America to try and understand issues that matter most to suburban Americans, and we've been testing those. And back in March or February, Generra, it was, we decided to do a qualitative focus group where we could have a weekly conversation with these voters. And what a rich year, crazy maybe is a better term, 2020 has been. So we've been able to get their opinions on a variety of issues that have faced us this year. And so we have a lot of data as we head into Tuesday that'll be important both now and in the future for us to help articulate what matters to these voters. Generra, anything you'd add?
Thanks, Marie. No, it's been a great opportunity. It's been a 22-week intensive qualitative process with these voters across the country, from Maricopa County in Arizona to Mecklenburg in North Carolina. And the importance of the work that we do at Into America is to serve as a research hub for these ideas and policies to look at the messaging and the substance that works with suburban Americans and ultimately will benefit their lives.
So let's drill down just for a second and get into some of the research that I was able to look at on your website, which, by the way, feel free to PR that as well. But you were looking at a few in the news kind of issues recently with the Supreme Court, with the election. Tell us about what some of your findings were.
Sure. Well, I'll start and then hand it off to Generra. As it relates to one of the most important issues as of late, our new Supreme Court justice, we found that overwhelmingly, while suburban voters are respectful and view that Justice Ginsburg was a trailblazer, they also are very savvy and understand process. They understand that it was the president's and the Senate's role to consider a new Supreme Court justice. And
Sure.
so on process, they understand that these suburban voters across the country, regardless of where they lean politically, they get the process and they're supportive of the process. When we started to introduce Justice Barrett and ask questions about she words such as impressive, impeccable, role model, were things we heard over and over again. And these suburban Americans really like her and who she is and what she's accomplished. Generra?
Yeah, I totally agree, Marie. The other thing we found is, like everyone across the country, is the coronavirus shaded all of our research. When we started this project and we're first dreaming up what this 22-week project would look like, we had no idea that the coronavirus would have the impact in our communities and in our politics that it has. So we were had a really unique vantage point to be able to watch over time attitudes and minds shift to the handling of the coronavirus across the country. And it's sort of turned into this nice time capsule of how suburban Americans have processed this. One of the most important things that I think we discovered in this process as it relates to the coronavirus is that crises have a way of focusing the mind on things that matter to you. It also has a way of focusing our politics, and things like access to schools, having schools open, access to the things that people value in suburban communities, restaurants, being outside, those sort of things. Those were all challenged and questioned. And I think for many suburban Americans, that kind of turned into a question about how is our government serving our needs while protecting the health and public safety of our communities. And to be honest, across the country, it's a very different scenario. Many states and jurisdictions are still experiencing school closings that have no likelihood of opening up, and maybe until next year. And that's a really demoralizing thing for suburban Americans. And I think we're going to see that downstream reflect in our politics and the way that they behave at the ballot box.
So let's move into that a little bit as far as how they behave at the ballot box and what's going to be after the election on Tuesday, whichever way it falls. It seems to point that despite a lot of the other polls and surveys that we've seen, most of what you have seen across the aisle is that people are pretty much right of center. They have a lot of conservative type beliefs and values, but a few of the issues that you mentioned that come out of it is healthcare, is concerns for their community as far as just equality of life issues. Depending on who wins on Tuesday, that doesn't change. So tell me what you think this helps Republicans, especially in the next cycles to come. How this project or these questions and these surveys can help kind of steer and guide the GOP going forward.
That's a great question, Frank. And I think what we're finding is because these suburban Americans appear to be center right, they do care about healthcare. They want to make sure that their healthcare doesn't change. They may want to help their neighbor, but they want to protect their healthcare. They want their schools to be open. They are absolutely against tax increases. They are not for some of the more liberal policies that we've heard Vice President Biden and Kamala Harris talk about that really concerns these Americans. And so the message that we've been saying is if Trump, President Trump does not win on Tuesday and the Democrats have a big night, which is, what the national media would like for you to believe,
Sure.
if the Democrats overreach the mandate that they think they have, then there will be consequences in a few years for them, because these voters are voting based on, in some ways, personality, but on the policy, they're very much center right. And so the opportunity for center right people, and the other hats I wear for the Republican Party, would be to articulate these in real ways so these people understand the policies and what Republican leaders would do for them. Generra?
So suburban Americans, like most Americans, had a great degree of patience when the coronavirus first hit. They understood that we were in unprecedented times, and they wanted to have patience with their elected leaders on things like schools and opening the economy. What I think will happen, though, is as we move into 2021 and we round out a year of experiencing the coronavirus, suburban Americans are going to lose patience with the idea in some communities across the country that schools are not open, or there's not a satisfactory alternative through virtual or other forms of learning for their children. That is the most, I think, clear example of how we're going to see this play out in the year ahead. I think the midterms elections in 2 years from now, should the Biden-Harris administration be in place at that point for 2 years, are really going to be a response to the coronavirus, the handling of it, and the dissatisfaction in core functions of government.
Can you talk just for a second about some of the partners and those who are involved in Into America? I've seen some names that were very familiar if you're in the GOP circles, as I have been in the past, and even here in our state, just for example, Henry Barber. So speak for a minute about who is working on your project with you.
Sure. I'll handle some of the board members, and then I'll let Generra handle some of the mechanics. When we started this project, you mentioned Henry Barber, who's from Mississippi. We went to a diverse group of operatives and opinion leaders across the country, and we wanted to make sure that these people were not all living in Washington, D.C. So some of these, you're right, have been involved in politics for a while. Some of them just have a good gut and opinion on things and live in states that are outside the Beltway. We have people from Texas, we have people from Colorado. And so we really wanted a board that could help push us in the right direction. As far as some of the work we've done, we have some really solid partners on the actual data. Generra, do you want to describe that a little bit?
Absolutely. Marie's exactly right. It was really important that this not be an inside the Beltway initiative, and that this reflect the diversity of our suburban communities across the country. So in addition to our board, we identified one of the core responsibilities of N2 America is to be this research hub to collect, analyze, and then disseminate this research to other organizations. So that's core to our mission. If you go to our website, n2america.us, thanks for letting us plug that, we'll get a chance to take a look at both some of the quantitative and qualitative research that we've open sourced to some of our partners, and are really doing what we can to talk about this and make sure folks have access to this information, because it's an incredibly rich and powerful insight.
So one of the things that I noticed on here that you mentioned on your website was focusing on policies that address quality of life issues, from energy to human trafficking to education and skills training, retirement, as you said, healthcare, as we discussed, childcare, family leave, all things that, and just be honest, all things that sometimes to get co-opted, if you go out by the left and their talking points, they're really good at telling those stories. This, I'm guessing, is a way for kind of the conservative base to kind of come back and say, hey, here's our story. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
That's exactly right. There are a lot of Republicans who've done great work on this. It's sometimes difficult to tell that story. It's sometimes difficult for that story to be told by the media. Sometimes it's difficult to find the right words to articulate and resonate with what we're doing. But suburban Americans, when they move to the suburbs, they expect certain things. In some ways, they feel like they've made it. They're happy with their education. They probably moved to the suburbs to buy a house. And so, they want to be economically sound, but they care about their family. We used to talk about the soccer moms. Now we've got the Peloton moms or the book club moms. And this is a really powerful group of savvy voters who are very mindful of these issues. You can talk to these voters, whether they're women or men, about the issues you just articulated, also on our website at intoamerica.us, that shows that they're keenly aware. And so they've traditionally voted Republican. This year, we'll see what happens on Tuesday. We need to remind them after the election about what the conservatives have done on these issues. Generra, anything you'd add?
Let me
Sorry, go ahead.
here real quick, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
it seems like you've got a good foundational board, you got a good structure, you kind of good message. What does that mean? I'm gonna pose this to Generra first, and then to Marie. As strong conservative women, what does this mean to you to kind of tell this story?
Frank, that's a great question. We're women, and we work in Republican politics and have for our careers. And I think about the way I talk to these issues with my friends. Right, that matters. That colors the way I bring advice and counsel to work. But the most interesting thing that is the connective across all of them.
There you go.
Thanks, Frank. The most interesting thing, the connective tissue across all of this is if you think about the suburban experience, your friends of yours, how they live and operate in the suburbs, they have a consumer branded experience in the suburbs. You go into a Target store, for example. Target feels the same in a suburb in Mississippi as it does in North Carolina. That's how voters connect with brands, and that's how they develop brand affinity and loyalty. The same is true on policy, and the same is true on our partisan politics. So when we present an idea like human trafficking through the lens of a Republican perspective or a center right perspective, you're able to walk away from that conversation having a different sense of what it means to be center right and what that approach is to that issue. That's a brand affinity that those suburban voters are learning through that experience.
Same thing to you, Marie. As someone who's been actively engaged in GOP politics for a long time, a working mother, someone who is very in the mix, if you will. What does this mean for you guys? Oh,
where we just were hit by a hurricane. So they came to pick up our garbage and pick up limbs while I'm doing this. So apologies. But I think for me, it's being able to articulate these in a very sound way. I think that the national media doesn't do Republicans any favors to talk about our ideas and what we stand for. And I think that I'm looking for a fresh way to communicate what it is we're for and what it is we're doing. I think the Justice Barrett situation is no clear indication of here it is a wonderful person who is very successful, who put her family first and also had a meaningful career. What an example. I hope my daughter can use her as a role model, not to take away from any of the other female justices who are just as stellar in their own way, but the fact that somehow what she stands for is not accepted by mainstream media is not okay. It's not, as Generra mentioned, the cancel culture. A lot of my friends are Kappa Deltas, and they took down their support for her. The Girl Scouts, that's really harmful. And so this is just another way for me to contribute in a bit, hopefully in a meaningful way to the conservative movement. I think the suburbs are at play. I think they're very important moving forward. I think national elections and local elections, what these voters think about conservatives and our policies do matter. And so we think this data that we're compiling will be used in a very good way to help communicate and help elected officials also understand who these people are and why it matters.
So tell our viewers once again where to find more information and how to kind of get involved, if you will.
You go. I've got too much background noise.
We'd love to share more information with your viewers. Go to n2america.us, and on that website you can look at both a memo that we've prepared on the quantitative research and the qualitative research. You can also follow along with our social channels. We're on Twitter, and would love to hear from your viewers and hear their feedback on our ideas.
Marie and Generra, thank you very much for joining me today, and good luck to both of you. And also, Marie, look, I'm just down the road in Pascagoula, so I understand all the noises and everything right now happening as a result of this hurricane. So I wish you the best and hope your power gets back on quickly. And Generra, nice to meet you as well.
Great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank. It's great to see you all as always.
Thank you. And we thank you also for joining us here today on Y'all Politics, and we'll see you next time.